Hey guys, welcome to Body Activation Explorations Hip Rotation with Hip Flexion. So basically, we're spinning and adding a little bit of hip bending in with this series. So for your journaling, again, make sure that number one, explain how you feel. Do it accurately. Really get in depth with your words. Also, how do you move from how you feel? Make sure that there is no pain or cramping with any of the positions or motions, that you control the pace with 2 seconds spinning. And also, it takes around 6 to 12 times per side to have an idea of the pain-free position and motion that lacks control that we want to practice later on. So we're going to build an exercise off of that position. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. Also, make sure that you feel the differences. So we're going to start with the hip bend, so the chest is down, my hand is supported on a bench or chair or a table or a wall, and then I'm going to spin through the heel with my left leg. So I want to make sure that when I'm bent in this position that it just feels fluid, it feels smooth rather than any cracking or popping. Avoid any clunks. You want to make sure that this is completely pain-free and fluid. And we're going to do this on both sides. So we did it on the left, and now we're doing it on the right with the right leg spinning. The knees can be slightly bent. It doesn't have to be all the way straight. And I like my other hand, my right hand, is seeing whether or not my body is rotating along with my hip, or is it just my hip that's rotating in the socket? Because this is about hip rotation with a little bit of hip flexion or a lot of hip flexion, depending upon how you want to take control of this. Now we're going to invert this. Now instead of spinning the leg with the heel on the ground, now we're going to spin our whole body through our leg. And you notice that I have a little difficulty controlling my left thigh on this. So this is all about the left thigh. Rather than the right leg going in and out, it's about spinning on the left thigh and the left foot being anchored to the ground. And we're going to do this on both sides. Again, spinning through the thigh with my foot anchored. So it's if the leg is anchored and the opposite hand is holding on for support, then it becomes less about balance and more about how that hip is moving. And again, I tend to move my thigh on this, so my right hip has got even less control than my left hip. So really pay attention to how you control that hip by placing your right hand on your right hip while you're using that right leg. Now we're going to go on a chair or on a table or on the ground in the seated position, and I just use my hands to brace. And this is very simple. I'm going to spin the thigh in and out, again looking for quality of motion, seeing if my knee is bending. Should just feel relaxed, and I'm looking for the quality of motion compared to when I was standing and spinning my leg and when my foot was anchored. I mean, is it the same? Is it always the left side that has difficulty or the right side that has a little difficulty controlling the rotation? Or does it seem to jump from one leg to the other? And all these are just things to notice, things to write down in journals so that we can then see what needs the most practice and work on it. So as I'm spinning here, I'm seeing whether my knee is bending, or can I just keep that leg straight as I relax into each rotation. Now I'm going to go on my back, and I'm going to invert this. So just like when I was on the ground, when I had my foot anchored, now I have my back anchored and my leg is spinning up. This can be rather difficult. If you have trouble with raising your leg up, it's okay if you skip this one. This is just a supported back with the leg lifted. So now we're actively using those hip flexors as we're spinning that leg in the socket. It doesn't have to be straight up, and the knee also can be slightly bent. We're going to do this on both sides, comparing how it felt when I sat up versus when I'm on my back and just spinning that leg in the socket. I'm going to go onto my right hip, nice and smooth in this transition, and I use knee on top of knee to then spin my left thigh into internal rotation and external rotation, or spinning it in and out. I'm using my top hand to brace. I'm using my bottom arm to brace my neck. So actually laying my head on my right arm. So you get a chance to either double brace the neck, or you can use that left hand to push into the ground to stabilize your torso. And you get a better look at it when we do the other side. From here, we're going to go on our stomach. And this is really nice to go off of a bed or a sofa. So I'm going to spin my leg and rotate it in and out through the ball, the foot, and the toe. And there is a little bit of hip abduction and adduction, meaning going out to the side and in. But you can do this with the leg just off the edge of a bed, or you can lay flat and just spin as well. But I prefer that hip flex position, and then I do that on both sides. Looking for if I have control over that left hip, just like I did when I was on my back with the leg raised, or when I was seated or standing. So we're going to go through that between 6 to 12 times. And you notice this side, I'm able to actually spin in a cycle rather than plant the ball of my foot on the ground and spin through the ball of the foot. So I have a little better control over my left than my right. Now I'm going to go on my left hip and finish through my right leg. Bringing my left leg underneath so I support it, and I'm going to spin that right hip on the left thigh. Just take your time with it. Notice how it moves. Is it the same? And then we'll finish up from there. Now we're going to be going to our journaling exercises and do our comparisons from the very beginning, from what you wrote down. So, what do you feel now? How do you feel now, and accurately describe it so you can compare it to when you first started. Now, how do you move compared to when you moved to begin with? Has it changed? Now we can pinpoint the exact position that was difficult to control, that was pain-free, to create our next hip rotation with hip flexion exercise.